All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another one of my interviews here on Drip Talk with Blake DeSnake Roberts. I have a very special guest with me today. He is a current comedian, actor, sports entertainment commentator slash ring and cage announcer. He's a former NXT and 205 Live commentator, announcer, and backstage interviewer. He's also been seen on WWE, UFC, MMA, Roku, Tubi, and much, much more. He is no other than Jonny Loquasto. So we'll get him on in here and we will start on with the interview.
How you doing, Blake? What's going on, man?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Excellent. Who's in the fish tank behind you?
Oh, well, their names are SpongeBob and Patrick.
Solid. Now, what kind of fish are we talking?
Um, they're just regular goldfish. I got one from like a carnival, like where you throw the ball into like one of the cups. I got it
Really?
many years ago. I'm surprised
And
he's still alive.
you're taking good care of a carnival goldfish. That's amazing.
Yeah, I had him since I was like probably 7, and now I'm 16. So,
Well, one time I went to my local hometown carnival. I think I was 10 or 11, and I won a rabbit because it was one of those
oh,
games where you put a quarter down on a number, they spin a wheel, and my mom didn't know that I had change in my pocket. And when she wasn't looking, I went and spun the number, and no joke, it landed on the number. And that rabbit lived about 9 years.
wow, wow,
Had a good run. Yeah,
right. So, I thank you for taking your time out to do this interview. It's a pleasure to have you on here.
of course, man. Happy to be on and happy to be coming to Wisconsin.
Right. All right. So, the first question I'll ask you is, when did you start doing comedy, and what made you want to get into it?
Ooh, long answer. Let's see how I could summarize it. I mean, I've loved comedy since I was a kid. I think partially because I was a big kid growing up. I was like, I mean, I'll just say, not to be politically correct, or I was a fat kid. I mean, Shelby, I don't know what you're supposed to say now, but I was a fat kid. And
Right.
I was, the biggest kid in my class in elementary. And so I kind of took to humor as a way to deflect away from that kind of attention. And
Mm-hmm.
I always just, that was my first kind of love when it came to wanting to make people laugh and stuff like that. Never thought I would end up attempting stand-up comedy or sketch or improv or anything like that. But eventually you become an adult and you have to make a decision. Do I want to be a regular person or do I want to kind of chase a dream? And I ended up doing a little bit of both. I got a physical therapy degree and was, proud to be a PT for a long time. And it allowed me to afford chasing after these various dreams and still have money coming in while I was working my way up and stuff like that. But yeah, initially it was just being a kid, and then the show In Living Color. I'm not sure, that's way before your time, but the show In Living Color came around, and I've been obsessed with that show ever since. And that really gave me my love for comedy and everything that I'm doing today as far as stand up goes.
Nice. Yeah. Is there anybody that you would say like inspired you in comedy to get into comedy?
I mean, it was definitely it was the show In Living Color, which ironically is a sketch show.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that it hit at a time when there was really no show ever like it before. Saturday Night Live was already a thing, but In Living Color was really the next level in my opinion. It was a lot more urban, which you didn't really get on television at that time. It was a primarily cast of color, which you weren't getting at that time. And to me, the humor was so much smarter than what a lot of what we were getting on Saturday Night Live and other sketch shows. And it just hit me at a time where I'd never seen anything like it. And I was like, wow, like this is amazing. This is incredible to me. And so it just made me always want to think next level when it came to comedy, when it came to writing jokes, when it came to coming up with sketch ideas, stuff like that. So there really wasn't one person. It was really that show that propelled everything. And over the years, I've met amazing comedians that I've actually worked with a few people from In Living Color, which is awesome. But really, it's just, you could be inspired by anyone when it comes to stand up. But I'm not one of those people that says it's one or two people. And I'm not like, oh, it was Carlin. Oh, it was Pryor. it's really just a lot of people. It's a mix of famous comedians and then people I came up with, people I work with. I think you can kind of draw inspiration anytime you're doing it. But initially, that was what really got me into it, and I still, I still watch the show to this day, even though I've seen every episode 17 times.
Right. So, to get into the wrestling side of things, could you tell the story of how you got asked to be part of WWE NXT and 205 Live, and what was it like for you getting to be part of that atmosphere?
Sure. Well, I was already working in wrestling for about 9 years before I got the opportunity with wrestling, with WWE, I should say. And, the company is always changing. A lot of times they want to look for people that don't have a wrestling background. Obviously, they just brought in Joe Tessitore, who, a combat sports background, college football background, pro football background as a broadcaster, a real pro, true and true. He's had a long career, and from what I hear, he did a great job on his opening night. And obviously, it's a big learning curve. When you not just jumping right into pro wrestling, but having your first broadcast be 3 hours on live television, that's not easy to do. So for me, I've always been the kind of person to where I'm just going to do what I love to do. I've loved pro wrestling since I was a little kid. I had the opportunity to get involved back in 2010, and I jumped at the opportunity. I started off doing backstage interviews. Then it got into a little bit of event hosting, then a little bit of ring announcing here and there, and then it got a chance to do color commentary and then play-by-play. And so over the course of those 9 years, I learned what professional wrestling television was about because I was part of the United Wrestling Network. I was involved in over 400 episodes of Championship Wrestling. And, one thing led to another where I made a lot of good relationships, people who ended up with WWE. Guys like, Scrap Iron Adam Pearce, who everyone knows now because he's on TV every week. Guys like Nigel McGuinness. And I credit them with, in my opinion, helping me get there. And it just got to the point where I got a call one day about a possible opportunity. They wanted to see my materials. I sent in a bunch of footage. They liked what they saw. And they decided, instead of even flying me in for an audition, they said, you've proven yourself over the years. We have people here who speak the world of you. So we're going to hire you. And so I moved to Orlando. So with me, it was the old school, work hard, get good, and try to be undeniable and just do business the right way and just try to help people as well. And that's what I did. Now, everyone has their own path. A lot of people have a traditional sports background, which now, I certainly have that as well. Because before I got to WWE, I was doing a lot of on-camera hosting. I was hosting different sports things and stuff like that. So you just never know. It really depends on the contacts you make, as you progress in your career. And it all depends on timing and the situation with the company. Obviously, timing worked out with me getting hired. But then, of course, a global pandemic was not on my side when it came to timing. So, and a lot of things in your career you can't control. But what you can control is your hustle, your work ethic, and how you are working with other people. And obviously, I credit you, man. Like, you started your first day of your junior year, and you're doing this. That's incredible. I mean, you're putting the work in already as a kid in high school. Like, that's the kind of stuff that, in my opinion, will only pay off down the road. You just never know how it's going to pay off.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I've been doing these interviews since way before COVID, actually. So, yeah.
Wow.
That's incredible. I was young, just on my couch talking to these indie wrestlers. And so, yeah. And then it started getting bigger and bigger for me. And now I'm here.
That's the thing. I honestly believe we never know what's going to happen, but if you put the effort forth and you put your heart into it and you believe in what you're doing, nothing bad is going to come out of it. Will you achieve the highest dream possible? Maybe, but you also might not. But no matter what, something good is going to come out of it. And for me, I honestly got into professional wrestling because I loved it. It was my favorite thing as a kid growing up. And the fact that I got to do it for 9 years before WWE was incredible. And, I was only there for a year and before the pandemic hit, not even a year actually. And then, we continued going, and then it was almost a year to the day when I started to when I got the phone call, that I was released. But in that 1 year, I could confidently say it made me 80% better as a broadcaster. I mean, the stuff I had learned there, I use to this day. I mean, because when it comes down to it, professional wrestling should be about storytelling. If you're a play-by-play broadcaster, you can use those storytelling skills in MMA, in boxing, in any kind of sport. And that's what I'm doing. So I was decent before I got to WWE, but I became so much better after there because I took what I learned and I utilize it now. And you'd be surprised at how many fighters will thank me after an event because they'll go back and listen to their fight. They're like, man, now I understand why you asked me so many questions. I said, yeah, because I want to tell your story. You're putting your life on the line in the cage. I want people to know about you. And that's really what I picked up from WWE. And, learning under the likes of Michael Cole, Tom Hannafin, Vic Joseph. I mean, how are you not going to learn working with guys like that? You're only going to get better.
Right.
And so, dude, I like you. I was a sponge, man. Like that year, I could honestly say I have absolutely no regrets. I was the first guy in, last guy to leave at the PC. I stuck in any classes I could. I sat in on skull sessions. I just wanted to absorb so much because you truly never know when it's going to end. And so I learned so much in that 1 year. I'm grateful for it. And, it's the kind of stuff I'm going to use hopefully for forever,
Right. Yeah. You want to soak in whatever you can as while you're there. So,
yeah,
because you never know what the next day will bring you.
Absolutely not. And there's things you learn there that you can't learn anywhere else when it comes down to it,
Right. You mentioned something about your release. How did that come along? And did you see your release coming? And what was like your reaction to all of that?
I think anyone who was part of that day really had no idea because when you think back to it, April of 2020, it was only a month or so after the pandemic really hit. And this is a point where the whole world was still shut down. I mean, we were still doing television every week, but everything had moved to the Performance Center, and there was no audience. And I'll be honest, I'm very proud that I was a part of that television. I mean, 205
Right.
Live, we started filming it before SmackDown on Fridays, and it was such an unpredictable time. You go from being in arenas in front of people to all of a sudden you're in a like mouse quiet performance center where guys and girls are performing. And I had to change my tone as a broadcaster. Like if you're in an arena with say 8 to 10,000 people or however many people were there for 205 Live, you can kind of keep it energetic the entire time while changing your levels. But I learned quickly in that no audience environment, you really had to become a table talk commentator at certain points because if you're up here the whole time, where are you going to go when there's no audience,
Yeah.
And so I really learned in that month, 6 weeks, whatever it was, how to be super conversational. And I like I said, I'm proud of being a part of that time because everyone went to work very unsure, kind of scared, not knowing what to expect, but the only goal was, okay, how can we make this entertaining for people watching at home? Because everyone was going through something in their life. They had family members sick. They were sick themselves. They were losing people. If we can entertain them for a little bit, that was the goal. And I'm really proud of that time. But no, I honestly didn't know. I didn't know it was coming because we were doing television every week, and I had just gone in to film some pre-tapes when I came home and got the call. And essentially, I don't even know what the numbers were, but I was told close to half the company in that one day
Right.
lost their jobs. And to me, I've still never posted on social media publicly about it because I'm very old school in the way I think. As a broadcaster, as proud as I am to be one, that day wasn't about me. It was about all the wrestlers who got released, all the production staff, all the backstage people. To me, I didn't post about it because I was still so unsure. I didn't know when or if I was going to go back. So I said, I just kind of handled it internally, and I've still kind of done that for the most part to this day. I just found ways. I said, okay, it's time to move along, time to reinvent myself, time to take what I learned and just make myself better every single day. And that's what I've been working on, really. So it was a crazy time, man. I certainly didn't see it coming, and it's definitely a day I will never forget. That's for sure.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I remember that day. We were just looking at social media.
Yeah.
Every minute there was this wrestler announced, this wrestler, and it kept going on and on for hours. And I was like, wow, it was crazy.
And this is a funny moment. This is how I knew that I wasn't going to post about it. One of my friends sent me a link of Dave Meltzer's show, and he was talking about a list of people that got released that day, and he was going down the names of people that got released, and he hit my name, and he said, and John Quasto, who I believe was training at the Performance Center. I don't even think he wrestled on television yet. He had no idea who I was. He thought I was a wrestler in training, had no clue. And I said, well, it's obvious Dave does not watch 205 Live, so we know that now. But
Right.
yeah, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to post about it. I'm just going to see how life shakes out. And I'm proud of the fact that the way I've handled everything. You know what I mean? I'm grateful for my time. You never know what'll happen in the future. I have a great relationship with everyone that I worked with there. And, but I love what I'm doing right now too. So.
Right. Yeah. So, when did the love of wrestling come into your life as a kid, and when did you just become a fan of wrestling?
Early. I want to say I was probably about 5 or 6 when I first saw it on TV. And the first event I went to, I believe I was 6 or 7. It was at the Allentown Fairgrounds in Pennsylvania, where I'm from. And I just remember Allentown Fairgrounds was a kind of a big, kind of cavernous venue, but has a lot of history when it comes to pro wrestling. It's WWF used to film television there, as a matter of fact. I mean, you look at how many wrestlers came from the Lehigh Valley. You know, when I was a little kid, the Wild Samoans had their wrestling school in the town next to where I grew up, right next to a bowling alley. Obviously Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, he graduated high school in Bethlehem. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there's just so much history. And so just going to Allentown Fairgrounds for a couple of events throughout my childhood was really what sparked the love. And then they eventually started going to Stabler Arena at Lehigh University, which is where my brother ended up going to college. And Stabler was a bigger venue. I think it could fit at least a handful of 1,000 people. So it was more of like an actual arena environment. And I would go anytime I could. Anytime WWF came through to Lehigh University, I would go. I remember one event, I'm not sure why. It lasted over 4 hours. And I think
Oh wow.
I remember the main event was Yokozuna, maybe Undertaker. I'm trying to remember. But I think someone showed up really late because there were multiple wrestlers that worked multiple times that night. And I think it's because they didn't want to end the event without the promised main event, So I remember that was a
Right.
very long night.
I mean, at least you got extra. You got to see extra. So.
Oh, as a kid, I loved it. Are you kidding me? Your dog's having a good time in the background, by the way.
Oh yeah, there's workers out right outside my house doing construction. So.
We have 2 dogs that do the same thing.
Who were your favorite wrestlers growing up as a kid?
That's always a tough one. But the one there's a couple that always stand out to me. And ironically, your name, it made me laugh because to me, Jake the Snake Roberts was a massive influence on why I loved wrestling, because I've always been a fan of people that do things differently, and in an era where everyone was screaming their promos, you
Right.
say your prayers, you take your vitamins, or you had the Ultimate Warrior saying God knows what. You had the Road Warriors, Jake the Snake would be so quiet. You would almost have to like put your ear up to the TV.
Yeah.
And what he was saying made you feel, you know, he had so many moments. The promo prior to going out to fight $1 Million Man, where he's talking about how Ted DiBiase's greed was going to be his downfall and things like that. Like, he put extra thought and effort into every promo he made. And it was one of the things that really stand out about him. Like, yeah, of course he had Damien, and then he had Lucifer, but to me, it was the way Jake spoke. Even as a kid, I said, "Oh
Right.
my gosh, this is so different." I was also a massive fan of the British Bulldogs. Dynamite Kid and Davey Boy Smith as a tag team. They were without a doubt my favorite tag team as a little kid. Those were the guys that to me really stood out the most. Dusty Rhodes, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I mean, how many? You'd probably count the number of guys or girls on one hand who could make someone love them like Dusty Rhodes. I mean, he just made you feel.
Right.
And I didn't know him really prior to WWE, but even everything he did there was incredible. So obviously Dusty, so much. And I'm sure throughout the interview I'll try to think of some more. But those are the ones that, as a little kid, that really stood out to me. And obviously, as you get to the Attitude Era, of course, I mean, you
Oh
name
yeah.
it, so many. And I've been fortunate enough
Oh
to
yeah.
work with a lot of them now. I mean, I'm friends with some guys from the Attitude Era now. It's crazy. But yeah, there's so many to choose from. It's really hard to pick just a couple.
Right. Yeah. From like the Attitude Era, do you know who Yooper the Clown was? Who did like the segments with Mankind and Stone Cold? With the It was the Vince McMahon in the hospital with
Okay.
Mankind
Oh, of
and
course.
Stone Cold attacked.
Yes.
Yeah, and then there was The Rock's birthday, and Yurple the Clown was on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do recall that. Do you know Yurko? What is it? Yurpo? Yurko?
Yurple.
Yurple. Do you know Yurpo the Clown? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I've interviewed her.
Oh, okay. That's amazing.
Yeah, she's never done an interview, so it was pretty rare. So yeah,
Good find.
yeah. So for all of the matches you've got to commentate for in the WWE, what would you list to your top 3 favorite?
Well, let's see. I mean, it was only 205 Live was the only show I did play-by-play on. Obviously, I did a lot of practice matches in the Performance Center, stuff like that, and a couple projects that never actually got released. I'd say as far as 205 Live, the one that really stands out to me the most would be there was a triple threat that was just so fast and so fun. It was Leo Rush, Tony Nese, and Jordan Devlin, who's now JD McDonough. And it was right after JD won the Cruiserweight Championship at Worlds Collide. I think it was the Fatal 4-Way. That match was phenomenal. And they had 17 or 18 minutes, which it'd be
Wow,
rare.
nice.
Yeah, it was rare to have a match that long on Raw or SmackDown. But on 205 Live, that was a main event every week. You'd get 17 to 20 minutes. And they just, whoo, that was really fun to call. There was also a chaotic tag match between Biff Busick or Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch against Daivari and Kendrick, where it ended with they did the double DDT on the announce table to I think Daivari, and then they duct taped Kendrick to the post. And that's how they won the match. It was crazy because they built up a really strong rivalry on 205, and it was just, 4 guys like that who are just all incredible. They're going to come up with something good. That was really fun. Also, just being able to call matches on who you knew guys were going to be rising up. Guys like Garza, Swerve Strickland, who's still one of my closest friends in wrestling. I mean, we got to see his rise, getting up to Worlds Collide and stuff like that. I remember that was one of my favorite ends to a show. It was the week before Worlds Collide, and Swerve won his match, and the show ended with Swerve on the turnbuckle doing this gesture that he does. And I remember my go home call just was a lot of fun. I just said, and tonight Isaiah Swerve Scott took one step closer to turning Worlds Collide into Swerve's house. It was something like that. But I remember as we went off air, I was like, oh, that moment felt good, So it was just, making relationships with everyone on the roster, because really everyone was just there trying to do their absolute best and trying to make a name for themselves on a show that, more people should have been watching. So those are the ones that come to mind.
Right, yeah. Like I miss 205 Live. That was a great addition to the WWE.
Yeah, it had a good run.
Right. So for MMA and UFC, what is your favorite thing about getting to be part of the MMA and UFC, and how did that get part of your career?
I mean, it's similar when it comes to pro wrestling. As a play by play broadcaster, the number one thing you need is respect for what's in front of you. So for me, I mean, as a physical therapist, I have an immense amount of respect for anyone who gets in a wrestling ring, anyone who gets in a boxing ring, anyone who gets in an MMA cage, because you are putting your safety on the line to reach success, to entertain people, to make a name for yourself. And I think that's the number one thing you need as a play by play broadcaster. If you don't have respect for what you're watching, if you don't have a love for what you're watching, I think your ceiling is only so high as a broadcaster because you have to really enjoy what you're watching. And so with MMA, boxing, combat sports, I've always loved it. It just so happens that,
Mm-hmm.
my opportunity in pro wrestling came first, and, I really jumped into that. And now I've been able to jump into everything. If there's a good opportunity in wrestling, I'm able to, boom, jump in there. But lately, the opportunities have been coming with MMA, with boxing, with influencer stuff. And like I said, I'm able to use that skill set in this world, and it really, really works. And so I just love talking to the fighters and finding out more about them and interviewing them. Like I'm going to an event, I have to fly in Thursday morning, and I'm going to go to the weigh-ins. And after the weigh-ins, I always sit down and I try to talk with each fighter. And a lot of fighters are very much like wrestlers. They don't want to talk. They're just like, I don't
Right.
know, just say whatever you want. I'm like, no, I want to know about you. And I have to drill them, and I have to pull these little tidbits out. And 5 minutes later, all of a sudden, boom, I have a story for their walkout. And they're like, oh, like that's the stuff you want? I'm like, yes. I'm like, I can say what your record is, but no one's going to care. They want to know about you as a person. Why should they want you to win? That's the whole goal here. And that's the thing I love most. And I think any play by play guy will tell you, like, yes, we love calling the action. We love being able to call an exciting moment, whether it's a knockout or a submission or an exciting exchange or something like that, or a nice combination. But ultimately, we want to make people watching believe in what they're watching. Like I want people to
Mm-hmm.
know about these fighters. Even if a fighter's making his pro debut or her pro debut, or they're only 2-1 or 5-0, I don't care. I want to know about them as individuals. So to me, that's what I love the most is establishing, professional relationships to where when the fighters see me again, they get excited. They're like, oh, okay, my fight's going to be good because, and this is a big problem in pro wrestling, I think. There are not enough professional broadcasters in pro wrestling. And I'm glad a lot of wrestlers are speaking up now about garbage commentary, because I look at it this way, and I'm sure you do too. If you were a wrestler and you were getting in the ring and you put all these hours into your craft, and you have what could be considered to be a good match, something you might want to send to WWE, AEW, Impact, New Japan, you name it. But the commentary is doing you a disservice, and it's really, really bad. Wouldn't that infuriate you a little bit?
Yeah.
And
Right. Mm-hmm.
and so I'm really glad that wrestlers are finally speaking up about it, because independent promotions should be held accountable for it. And when it comes down to it, independent promotions, they're very cheap. They don't want to pay for good broadcasters. They'll throw anyone on a headset that will do it for next to nothing. I will say most promotions. There are some that actually care, which is important. But I just think that professional wrestling as a whole needs to put more emphasis on good quality commentary in the independent scene. Obviously, WWE, Impact, AEW, they have solid broadcast teams. But when it comes to the independents, there's not a lot out there. And a lot of it is because they don't want to invest in paying broadcasters what they should be paid. And I guarantee you, there's some broadcasters on the independent wrestling scene who would 100% agree with me, but they don't want to upset any promotions. But I'm telling you right now, broadcasters in independent wrestling do not get paid enough, and it's not even close. And so that's one of the things I will not get off my soapbox about. It's one of the reasons I'm not doing a lot of independent stuff in wrestling, because I know what I'm worth, and I just want
Right.
professional wrestling to appreciate good commentary, because it's a huge part. If you're doing an internet pay-per-view and you expect people to pay for what they're watching, even if it's free on YouTube, you're asking people to use their time. Time is money.
Mm-hmm.
You need good broadcasting. And I just think the independent wrestling scene needs to be held accountable for it. I think a lot of promotions need to do better. So that's my conductive criticism to the independent wrestling scene.
Right. Yep. Out of all of the wrestlers you've got to be around during your time in the WWE, is there anyone you could say you could have called like close friends?
Yeah, ironically, none of them are still there. But I was friends with Brennan Williams. He's now Mace or Mace with MXM. We were friends for years prior to WWE, and so naturally, I became very close with Mansoor. The three of us still talk all the time. Very close friends with Daddy Magic, who's now with AEW. We still talk all the time. We're both Chiefs fans, so we talk Chiefs football a couple times a week. I'm so happy for all of them. I mean, all three of them, they all got released. And, when you get released, you have to decide, what am I going to do? Am I going to give up, or am I going to find a way? Look at what Daddy Magic and Jeff Parker did together. Angelo Parker, I should say. They stuck together. They knew what they had to offer. And now they're both still there. And look at Daddy Magic. He's an incredible commentator. We used to call matches together at the PC for practice. So we had a blast. And then you look at Mason Mansoor. I mean, my goodness, they took a gimmick, whatever you want to call it, that nobody thought would ever work. And they said, oh no, we know how good we are. We're going to make it work. And if you watch them now,
Mm-hmm.
find me a more entertaining and creative promo than what they're doing. I think it'd be hard pressed to find it. And I'm so proud of them. In a very short amount of time, they invested in themselves. They flew themselves to Uganda to be part of soft ground wrestling. And now they're amazing. And they're just always thinking ahead. So those guys, and of course, speaking of thinking ahead, Swerve Strickland. I mean, I can't say enough about him as a wrestler, as a person, as an artist. He's one of those people that is always thinking ahead. From the moment he was in WWE to the moment he got released to the moment he got with AEW, he was always doing something different, and he always had the utmost confidence in himself, knowing it was going to work. Even if people didn't get it initially, they were going to get it. And it led to him becoming AEW World Champion, to everything he's doing now, to signing a new long-term contract. Are you kidding me? And like I said, he's a real one, man. He's the day I got released, he said, he's like, dude, let's hang out. He's like, it's a rough day. You need to get your mind off what happened. And we did. And like I said, I can't say enough about him. He's one of the most talented people in the business, and very, very happy for everything he's doing right now. So I would say those are the ones that stick out the most. We got Swerve, we got MXM, we got Daddy Magic. Those are the ones. And obviously everyone I worked with, I really enjoyed. But as far as friends I still keep in contact with, I'd say, and then of course Nigel McGuinness, longtime friend as well.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of wrestlers that got released from WWE that went to AEW and did much better than they did in their WWE career.
Like I said, you never know. You never know what opportunities are going to come up. You just have to. You need to have confidence in yourself, and you need to keep getting better. And I can't speak to what it's like as a wrestler, but I could speak to what it's like as a broadcaster. I can tell you now, I'm immensely better now than I was 4 years ago. I'm immensely better now than I was 5 years ago. And I know that if any phone call comes in, I'm ready. So.
Yeah. What is the story of being asked to voice in the video game GTA 5, and what was it like for you getting to be part of that whole experience?
Dude, that's a good question, because I didn't even know I was in the game. So the video game world's very weird. It's very secretive, right? All I know is, this is over 10 years ago now. My voiceover agent told me, hey, you have you booked an audition. You're going to this studio, and that's it. And it was, most big video games have a code word. They don't actually, up until the game gets released, it's a code word. So I just remember going to the studio that day. All they told me is that, hey, you're a really angry firefighter. Here are your lines. And I had to scream for about an hour. And
jeez.
yeah, and this is kind of early in my voiceover career. I didn't really know how to train my voice yet. So my voice was affected for like 2 days afterwards,
Mm.
But all I knew is I was this dude, I was screaming, I was angry, and I left the studio. And a little over a year later, I remember that day I saw another friend of mine, comedian, he was coming in for an appointment, studio. And he reached out, he goes, hey, remember that time I saw you in the studio? I was like, yeah, it was a while ago. He goes, dude, we're in GTA 5. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, that we recorded for was GTA 5. I'm like, was anyone going to tell me? He's like, probably not. And sure enough, no one ever told me I was a part of GTA 5. I had to find out through a friend. And then my brother and I ended up finding my character in the game. And I ended up adding it to my IMDb. I'm like, holy shit, I'm in GTA 5. This is crazy. And so we'll see. Rumors are GTA 6 is going to be coming out in the future, but who knows?
Right, yeah. Now I really want to, because I have the GTA 5 game, I really want to look for that now.
I'm easy to find. If you start a fire and the fire truck shows up, I am one of the guys that screams and cusses and tries to fight you.
Oh, okay.
You will recognize my voice, trust me.
What are 3 recallable moments from your time in the WWE that just stand out to you, your favorites?
Whew. Number 1, definitely my first time calling 205. Not just because it was my first time, but ironically, it was in Philadelphia, and I'm a Pennsylvania kid. I grew up going to that same arena to watch the Sixers. I went to that same arena to watch the Royal Rumble, and
Right.
I got to call 205 in that arena. Like, that was incredibly surreal. In hindsight, I wish I would have taken more photos and more videos, but when I was at work, I was so locked in and focused that I didn't allow myself to do a lot of that, but I wish I would have. That's one. The other one is I got to ring announce and host Staples Center, which is now Crypto.com Arena in LA, which, I lived in LA for 10 years before WWE. So to be able to go home on the SmackDown holiday tour in front of 13,000 people, center of the ring, mic in my hand, I look around the crowd, I see people I know, I see celebrities in the crowd. I'm like, oh man, this is insane. And then of course, Roman Reigns in the main event. So there is a fan video of me announcing, it was a street fight between Roman Reigns and King Corbin at the time. So that's another one. And so many good moments on live events, whether it be NXT on the road or, the SmackDown tour on the road. One time we were in New York, and this is when The Fiend, who I see right behind you, Bray was really taking off. I think he may have been champion at the time as The Fiend. And they had me go out to the audience to do a live hit, which means like they send one of the cameras to me and I do a little game show, a little trivia thing with a fan, and they win a prize. And there was a little girl about 4 or 5 years old who was crying. And I had about 5 minutes before the cameras were coming. And I just asked the parents, I said, hey, what's going on? And they said, she's afraid The Fiend is going to come out and get her. And so I had to think quick. And so I pretended there was a thing in my ear. Because there actually was. But I pretended that someone was talking to me. I hit my little IFB and I said, what's that? Oh, yes, I will tell her right now. And I said, sweetie, I've just been told that The Fiend is not actually here tonight. So I could promise you, you're safe. Your parents are safe. We're all safe. The Fiend is not here tonight. And within 2 or 3 minutes, she was laughing and having a good time again. And thank goodness.
That's good.
You don't want someone crying at a show. You want them having a good time. And so it was just a really cool moment to have with her and her parents. Because I knew when I was a kid, everything was larger than life. And there's still memories I have from when I was 7 years old at a wrestling event. And so that was never lost on me. Anytime I do an NXT live event or WWE live event, and I would see kids, my goal was like, give them a high five, give them a fist pump, make them smile, make them laugh, because those are moments they're going to remember down the road. A friend of mine, we did an NXT live event in New York near Buffalo. I was able to get him and his 8-year-old son front row seats for NXT Live. And I remember every time I was sitting ringside, of course, every time I'd look over, his son would look at me and be like just have the time of his life. And I know for a fact that's something he's going to remember when he's my age. And so just always keeping that in mind, just trying to give kids, there's that phrase, smiles on faces. It's 100% true. You want kids to have a good time. And I guess the other one that comes to mind is Survivor Series weekend. I got to host a private Q&A where like 25, 30 fans got to come in with Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins, just the three of us on stage in chairs. I just kind of moderated this Q&A, just being able to sit in between two Hall of Famers. I mean, that's crazy. So.
Right. Yeah. And for the Fiend story, did the Fiend ever show up?
No, he was not. We did get to know each other a little bit, and I mean, he's everything everyone has said about him. One of the most humble, genuine people you'll ever meet. I didn't know him well. I just knew him from being on television at SmackDown.
Yeah.
He would often come into where I was sitting, and a lot of times it was just him and I prior to 205 Live. And I got to tell you, he just made you feel like you were an equal. I knew I wasn't. But he was just incredible. Just a great person to talk to. He is sorely missed in so many ways. And his wife, Josie's such a nice person. I met her a few times. She's incredible. And, I got to believe his kids are going to grow up hearing about how amazing their dad was. And, God, I'm getting choked up talking about it. He really was. Everyone in WWE is professional, but very few had that authentic, genuine, just the moment you meet Wyndham, you were just like, oh my God, he's like me, except he's 1,000 times more talented and amazing. But we would just have conversations, and he was so personable. And I even saw him once after the pandemic, after I lost my job. I was at my gym, and he happened to be there working out that day. He came up to me to say hello. I'm like, I can't believe you remember me. He's like, come on, brother. And we had a 10-minute conversation. And this is just me. I wasn't close friends with him. I didn't know him well. We were just colleagues. And he made me feel that way. So just imagine how great he was to the people in his life. And so that's my little tribute to Wyndham Rotunda. He really was as special as everyone says.
Yeah, definitely. I love what they're doing on Raw now with the Wyatt 6 for him. It's awesome.
Beautiful. It really is. And I apologize. My voiceover studio, I did not turn the fan on before I got in here. Didn't realize how hot it was going to be. So if everyone's watching and it looks like I'm sweating, that's not fake. I am sweating because I didn't turn my fan on.
What was it like getting to do the comedy movies, Saudi Stepdad and Physical Therapy that you did?
Yeah, those are actually my comedy specials, my stand-up specials. Physical Therapy was the first one. I actually shot it before WWE, ended up releasing it in 2021. And then Saudi Stepdad was a special I shot last year. As a comic, your life changes over the years, and that's what these specials are all about. Physical Therapy was essentially about my life up until WWE as a physical therapist, as a comedian, my experiences in life. And since then, my entire life changed. I ended up meeting my wife in Florida. Now my kids, we're a blended family, and they're from a different culture. They're from a different part of the world. So a lot of my material in that special is about me adjusting, me becoming a husband, me becoming a father, but also me joining a family of a completely different culture and me trying to figure it all out. And that's where the term Saudi Stepdad comes in, So I'm so proud of both, but it's interesting because they're both such different parts of my life. And I'm slowly working on my next special. Not quite sure what it's going to entail yet, but it's all coming along, So, and I shot all that by myself. I had my own team that I put together, very talented people that helped me out. And, I think they both speak for themselves. I'm really proud of them as far as comedy specials.
Right. Yeah. Who would you put onto your Mount Rushmore of wrestlers?
Oh no, that's not fair. Are you saying you're not saying favorites, you're saying greatest of all time?
Yeah, so like the Mount Rushmore.
Oh boy. Now I'm sweating even more. Come on. This is so subjective. Like we're talking of all time, not just any era.
Of all time, yeah.
Blake, you are killing me with this. All right. This is completely off the top of my head. Um oh man, I mean I think I think Ric Flair obviously has to be on there. I mean, you could argue obviously guys like Harley Race, Bruno Sammartino. I mean, there's so many people that Gorgeous George. I mean, you look at what he did. He paved the way for a lot of the entertaining elements. Prior to that, I mean, you look at the guys who created the Gold Dust Trio and just and then modern era. I mean, good lord, things are done so differently now. You know,
Right.
look at guys like Bryan Danielson, what they've accomplished over the course of their career. I think when all is said and done, you could even argue now Charlotte Flair. You could argue now she's the greatest ever. Oh boy, I think that's a good handful. Because to me, I look at wrestling, I kind of break things up. It's hard to find everyone that has the total package. You can say Dusty Rhodes, total package there, because he made you feel so
Right.
much, and he sounded different than everyone else. And you look at so many people were influenced by him. I mean, superstar Billy Graham, he did things that no one was doing and that people borrowed from for decades to come after that. So it's really hard to say for me a Mount Rushmore because I appreciate so many elements of it. To me, I'd almost want to break it down into like Mount Rushmore of talkers, Mount Rushmore of ring workers, Mount Rushmore of managers, Mount Rushmore of, and how could you have a Mount Rushmore without Bobby Heenan?
Right.
To me, he might be one of the most talented people in the history of professional wrestling. All told, I mean, he was incredible in the ring. People don't remember him as much for that. But everything he did, Bobby Heenan had the perfect balance of making you laugh, but taking himself seriously. And that's why he made you laugh. But then when he got fired up with the Heenan family and whatnot, he made you believe. Bobby Heenan was one of the last great comedy minds in pro wrestling. I think, and this is coming from a comedian, so I feel like I have a right to say this. Most comedy in wrestling is not well done because they're done by people who it's done by people who aren't trained in comedy, who think that comedy is overdoing it. Comedy is in the subtlety. Comedy is in not knowing you're making people laugh. Comedy is in taking yourself seriously as a character, and that's where the comedy comes from. It's got to be subtle. A lot of comedy in wrestling today is way over the top and way overdone, and it just comes across as fake. So to me, anyone who wants to do comedy in wrestling, I think you got to watch someone like Heenan to see how it's done perfectly. So long answer. I don't know if that's a good answer, but those are just people off the top of my head.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's too many to name for just four. So, yeah, I get where you're going with that.
I forgot how many guys were on Mount Rushmore. Thank you for reminding me. I thought it was 5. I don't know.
What are some of your favorite topics to talk about while doing comedy?
My life, to be honest with you. I love classic jokes, setup, punchline, things like that. But I like adding them into what's going on in my life. Some comics are great at the objective, where you don't know anything about them as people, but you laugh a lot. That's not really my style. My style is I want to talk about my life, and hopefully people can relate to it. And obviously, I'll throw in some objective stuff that I see in there as well. But I try to structure everything to where sequentially it all kind of makes sense. So I'm more of a personal comic.
Right. So your first time being on WWE television, how did that feel exactly for you in that moment in time in front of all these people?
Well, I mean, I guess I'm going to count that episode of 205 Live because I was doing, backstage interviews for NXT and everything, but it was amazing. I mean, I was stressed out all day. Um, and of course, the show didn't go live until 10 o'clock at night, right after SmackDown was over. So I had all day to stress out about it and wonder how it was going to be. Am I going to fall walking down the ramp? You name it. But then you get in that chair. And I remember I took a second to look around. And the arena in Philly, I would say was still 80% full. So we're talking like at least 10,000 people still there, something like that. And I remember sitting in the chair because there was no time. SmackDown went off the air like 9:58, and we were going live at 10 o'clock. So, me and Matt Ray will, run down the ramp, sit in the chair. And I remember looking around, and all of a sudden they're throwing the headset on me. I'm like, oh, it's go time. And there's something about doing things live where it just makes you step up your game a notch. And I'll just never forget that moment. I'll never forget that walk, looking around the arena and watching back that episode and be like, oh my gosh, like little kid me watching Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan and Jesse Ventura and then Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler and Michael Cole, everyone. I'm like, I'm sitting in that chair. What happened? Oh my gosh. So
Right.
I think it's one of those moments where I have to remind myself of that sometimes. Like, oh yeah, man, you made it and you're even better than you are. You're even better now than you were then. And I think that's the number one thing to anyone. If anyone's watching this who is chasing after something, just know that as long as you keep progressing and getting better, that's the most important thing. You're going to have your highlights here and there. You're going to have a highlight this year, a highlight next year. But if you keep getting better, you're going to be ready for that next opportunity. And you just never know when it's going to come.
Right. So something that I've been wanting to know is after like every WWE show, the commentators run off from the commentating table right away. Is there any reasoning behind that?
Oh, yeah, timing. Yeah, pretty much.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
yeah, if one show ends and there's another one right after it, you got to move. But other than that, it's just about, there's no particular reason. Obviously, when the show is over, you don't want to hang around. You want to get to the back because they have to take down, the ring and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, I was just always wondering because like every show I've been to, they always ran off right away.
Yeah, it's just that, there's no reason for the announcers to hang around. They just, go to the back.
Right. Would you ever possibly be interested in taking part in any like type of AGT for your comedy skills or any type of reality show such as like AGT or?
Yeah, a friend of mine, one of my best friends got third place in AGT back in 2019, and it helped him out a lot. He's a hilarious comedian named Ryan Niemiller. Yeah, I would do it. I mean, the thing is with AGT and comedians, they always want some kind of a story. You can't just be a good comic. You got to have a story that they can sink their teeth into. I think I do have that story, but there's a lot of ins and outs of even getting attention from that show. But no, of course I'd be open to it. And do I think I have the chops for it? Absolutely. So, yeah, you never know.
All right, that'd be cool. If you could go back in time and tell your younger self something motivational towards becoming what you are now, what would that be?
Start earlier. That would be what I would tell myself. Not that I started late, but I started later than I wanted to. When I was 7 years old, the first thing I ever wanted, when you're a little kid and you're like, I want to be this. Truth be told, the first thing I ever said at 7 years old was I want to be a sports commentator because I would watch the Phillies games and the Sixers games, and I loved what those guys were doing. I'm like, I want to be that guy. I want to talk. And then, of course, I fell in love with comedy, and those were the two things that I've loved my entire life. But, over the years, you don't really understand, like, well, I don't even know how to to do that, how to get involved. And, I'm grateful for my physical therapy degree, but in hindsight, I wish I would have focused earlier in my life. I felt like I've had to play catch up a little bit in both, which I've done a pretty good job of doing. But at the same time, I wish, like, you love what you're doing, and with modern technology, you could do a podcast. I wish I would have found ways in those businesses a little bit earlier than I did. So I would say, follow your gut, follow your heart, start earlier.
Yeah. Were you in any type of like drama class or any type of classes that helped you out when you were younger to do this type of stuff?
Not at all. I was just a goofy kid who made people laugh. In 6th grade, I got cast as the lead in the school musical, where it was like the entire school, kindergarten through 6th grade, had to do this musical together, and I was like the main guy. I had to play some weird travel agent or something, so I was like the talking guy throughout the entire thing, where the songs are sprinkled in. But no, I had no training, nothing. I was just a goofy kid, obsessed with comedy and making people laugh. That's it.
Right. If you could come up with a catchphrase for yourself in the comedy world, what would that catchphrase be?
In the comedy world?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I hate catchphrases. What would yours be in wrestling?
Well, I do kind of have a catchphrase of Mr. Hardcore Psycho.
Hey,
because
all right.
I wrestle on my trampoline as Shredder Von Dyke. I'm like a devilish heel character that I play, also known as the Lunatic Killer. So I have like a whole outfit I do and stuff. So yeah.
There you go. Okay, well that's definitely better than my catchphrase. Yeah, dude, I don't think I have a catchphrase as far as comedy. I don't have an interest in having one. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
No catchphrase. That's my catchphrase.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Thank you.
What is your favorite wrestling quote?
So you're talking like catchphrases, stuff like that?
Yeah, that from like any wrestler.
Oh, man. It's hard to pick one, to be honest. I mean, I'd have to think about it. Obviously, The Rock had about 15 of them that were entertaining. Stone Cold had a bunch. Macho Man had a ton. I mean, there's a catchphrase. There's a little phrase I say to people getting in the business that if they ask advice from a broadcasting perspective, I tell them the 2 S's: sell and slow down. If you focus on the 2 S's, you're going to be much better off as you progress. So how about that? That's a catchphrase that I came up with, the 2 S's: sell and slow down. Very
all right,
important.
there we go. Nice. What is something you would tell a person that says wrestling is fake to you? What would you tell them?
I would tell them that until they have a healthcare degree and know as much about the body as I do, they cannot call it fake. And this is me as a licensed physical therapist saying that anyone who calls wrestling fake is either trying to get a rise out of someone or they're blatantly ignorant. Professional wrestling is the furthest thing from fake. It's incredibly physical. It's incredibly athletic. In my opinion, when it's done right, it's the greatest form of live entertainment on the planet. Nothing has everything like professional wrestling does. And you can't call it fake, because I've helped many, many wrestlers with their real injuries from matches. Wrestlers do things to make us believe. And in order to make us believe, they have to be incredibly highly skilled at it. And, this is not even me as a broadcaster. This is me as a physical therapist. If you call professional wrestling fake, you're an idiot.
Right. And just say, what would it be like if you were in that ring?
Oh, it'd be over in about 4 seconds.
Right.
Yeah. Punch to the face, I'd go down. 3 count. Done. I know my place. Look, talking has always been a strong point, but I was never the greatest athlete. And look, plenty of pro wrestlers have made it without being amazing athletes, but I know my place. I know my role. I don't shut my mouth, but I know my role, as The Rock would say. I know my spot in wrestling is to help enhance what people are watching. But no, by no means would I ever want to take part in a match. To me, I don't think fans pay to see a broadcaster get physically involved unless there's some kind of crazy storyline going on. So no, I'm good. I will call those matches and I will sit in my suit on the headset.
Right. Kind of like how the Fiend mandible clawed Jerry Lawler.
Yeah.
That one
time.
But
don't forget though, Jerry Lawler, legendary wrestler, Hall of Famer. So I'm not going to put him in the broadcaster realm. Jerry Lawler's, legend. You could argue Lawler could be on a Mount Rushmore. So I'm talking about a guy like me who is not known as a wrestler, never been known as a wrestler. I just don't think guys like me getting involved in a match or anything physical, it just doesn't make sense. I think we've seen it time and time again. Audiences don't care. And why should they? They're there to see the superstars. They're there to see the wrestlers, not there to see us. So,
yeah, just announcer hop over the table and get into the ring.
I would fall over if I tried to hop over.
What is one thing you would tell your fans from all across of what you're doing, from wrestling, comedy, and everything else?
As far as like a message or?
Yeah, like thank them for like following you throughout your career and to now.
Yeah, I'm honestly, if I never do anything in wrestling ever again, I've already done more than I ever could have dreamed of. And I'm truly grateful for it. So do I feel like I have a lot to offer still? Absolutely. I feel like as a play-by-play guy, I don't think there's anybody in combat sports with my resume, being able to do it for WWE, doing it for multiple promotions on UFC Fight Pass, other promotions as well. Also, boxing, getting into the influencer world. And on top of that, having a master's degree in physical therapy. I don't think there's another play-by-play guy in the world that has the knowledge of the body that I do. Maybe there's a doctor out there. Maybe there's another physical therapist out there. I haven't found them. So I do feel like I have a lot to offer. And I'm ready to go at any time, but I love what I'm doing. I'm grateful for every promotion I'm working for. I'll be calling A1 Combat this week on UFC Fight Pass. I'll be back with XFC in Milwaukee at the end of this month. And with wrestling, you never quite know. Like I said, the cool thing about freelancing is you're not under contract. You can do essentially whatever you want. And I'm very proud of what I've done. I'm very grateful for everyone who's ever supported, complimented, anything like that. But I still feel like I have a lot to offer in the world of professional wrestling. Just got to see when the right opportunity comes up.
Right. Yep. Do you have any thoughts on the Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul fight that's going to be taken?
All credit to Jake Paul. He's drawing tickets. People are buying his stuff. But man, I don't care how old Mike Tyson is. He's still Mike Tyson. And watching those training videos, you couldn't tell me Mike Tyson is the age he's at. So now Jake Paul is a much bigger individual. He's an incredible athlete. He's a powerhouse. But if that fight happens, and I sure hope it does, I'm sorry, but I don't. Until he hasn't fought anyone remotely the skill level of Mike Tyson.
Right.
Mike Perry, who I've met before, I've actually been around before. He's a stud. He's a warrior. But he's the first one to tell you he's not a boxer. And he still took Jake Paul to the 6th round. This is Mike Tyson we're talking about. So if you're asking me to pick the winner, it's Tyson. Simple.
Right. And I think it's going to be on Netflix. So I finally have Netflix after many years of not having it. So I can finally watch it. And I'm thinking that he's going to knock him out right away.
I'm excited to see it. I hope it happens. I hope they both stay healthy going into it, and it's going to be something to watch.
Right. Do you have any advice for me to become a pro wrestler or getting into like the pro wrestling business
Mm-hmm.
from your side of things?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're doing already is great. You know, you're learning from, you know, you're probably learning a little something from every guest that you have. I think the most important thing for you is have good trainers. Make sure you're going to a good school that teaches you the right way. And like I said, the two S's, sell and slow down. I've been around a lot of amazing wrestling coaches, whether they be all the coaches at NXT or on the independents, you know, guys and girls that have had really good careers who know what they're doing. And selling and slowing down are two of the most important things as a wrestler. And also, I can tell you as a broadcaster, if you're going too fast or you're not registering and you're not selling what's happening, how are we going to tell your story? You know,
Right.
if you jump up from a pile driver, what can we do to defend that? We can't. Like, oh man, he's superhuman. Well, how many times are we going to say that in one? You know what I mean? Like, and unfortunately, it
Right.
still happens too much on national television. Like,
Oh yeah.
the DDT has been ruined. I'm sorry, the DDT should be a finisher. No one should kick out of the DDT, but yet people are doing it all the time. I don't think anyone should kick out of a pile driver. Speaking from a physical therapy perspective, you ain't getting up from that, you know? So I just
Yeah.
think that being logical and being intelligent and thinking about everything, selling, slowing down when you're in the ring, trust me, it's going to pay off because you want to be in this for the long haul. You don't want to microwave your career. You want to be in it for the long run. So, in my opinion, doing things the right way, you'll get your basics down and then you could start to tinker and add your art to it and stuff like that. But I think it's really important to be with a good school who has your safety in mind, who does things the right way. That's my advice. Is enjoy the process, but make sure you're with the right people.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Of course.
So, for the last question I have for you is for the UTL event that's coming up in Marinette, Wisconsin. Would you like to plug and talk about a little bit about that UTL comedy event that you have coming up?
Yes, I can't wait. So I'm going to be in Milwaukee for MMA the end of February. But luckily, I was able to schedule a comedy show a couple nights before on Wednesday, September 25th. I've only been to Wisconsin a few times in my life. So I'm like, and both times I think we're Green Bay. Actually, 3 times we're Green Bay. So I'm really excited to be doing that show. And I believe is 7 o'clock, I think, start time on the 25th.
Correct. Yep, and doors open at 6.
Yes. So I cannot wait. If you're watching this, if you're in Wisconsin, come on out. Tickets are an easy shot. I think they're $10, and it's a small, intimate room, and we want to pack that place out. And I guarantee you're going to have a good time with myself and the other comedians that are on the show.
Yeah, I know I'll be there. So
good. Thank you for coming, man.
Yeah, I can't wait to meet you as a big wrestling fan. So, you know, it's going to be cool to meet you. And yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I thank you for taking your time out to do this interview. It was a pleasure to have you on here.
Of course. And I'll see you on September 25th.
Yes, I'll see you then. All right. Thank you.
See you guys.
Have a good rest of your night.
You too.